I want to quickly talk about loneliness or feeling alone, by yourself or in a relationship. Some of us may also experience what we know as isolation. So in order for me to explain this, I want us to focus on the story of Moses, which expands over Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. The story of Moses ends in Joshua. Okay, so we all know that Moses freed the Israelites from Egypt slavery of over 400 years. And they wandered the desert for 40 years. Now, some people believe that they did that because they were disobedient to God. They could have been in the promised land in 11 days. But that's not the case. I want you to think about it like this. 400 years of slavery versus 40 years of freedom. Or shall I say 40 years of wandering. And you have to think about their mindset. These are people that have been in captivity for over 400 years. They were forced to labor until they die. They were forced to labor for no wages whatsoever. Now I want you to think about it as a bad relationship. So you have been in a toxic relationship for the past 20 years. You've been in a toxic marriage for the last 20 years. And you finally broke free from that. Do you think it's going to take you 11 days to get through all that trauma? Do you think it's going to take you 2 weeks to get through all that trauma? How's about a year? This is 20 years of abuse, 20 years of captivity, 20 years of slavery, 20 years of toxicity. Do you think that a year is long enough for you to recover from that trauma? The answer is no. I want to take you to Exodus chapter 13, verses 17 to 18. When Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them on a road through the Philistine country, though that was shorter. For God said, if they face war, they might change their minds and return to Egypt. So God led the people around by the desert road toward the Red Sea. The Israelites went up out of Egypt armed for battle. This is why God does what He does. He knows us so well that He has to take His time. He told the Israelites that the land flowing with milk and honey belongs to them. But because they came from slavery and captivity for 400 years, do you really think that they would be able to sustain a promised land? Do you really think they will be able to live freely? Or do you think that they would still have this captivity mindset, the slavery mindset? Now, the same is true for a relationship. If you are in a long-term relationship, and I mean long, I mean a few decades, and you have just come out of it, God is going to isolate you. That's why you're feeling lonely. Because right now, you are wandering in your desert. Because He is changing you. He is preparing you for your promised land. If you read all 4 books, you will see what the Israelites actually had to go through before they could get into the promised land. I know that this season feels lonely and alone and isolated. But I want to encourage you by telling you that you're not actually alone. You are in the perfect position that God needs you to be. He is teaching you a different perspective on life, a life with Him. You see, when we are surrounded by things that are not made for us, it pulls us away from God. We don't see Him as much as we would like to see Him. And the minute He removes us from that situation, He has to isolate us. You will lose friends. You will even lose family members. Remember, the Israelites for these 400 years did not believe that there was a God of the people. Because why are we in slavery? They lost sight of God because they thought this can't be it. those people died not knowing that there is a God that loves them. So yes, they lost hope. He needed to reset their mind. And it took him 40 years to do that. I know that this time is difficult. You feel lost, and you feel lonely, and you feel alone, and you're losing people because it seems like you are too depressed for them. It seems like your mood or your vibe is not vibing with them, however you want to say it. So they stay away from you because they can't handle whatever. That's not the truth. It's not them that is staying away from you. It's God that's removing them because you have a job to do. And that is to get to know your Father. He has isolated you for such a time so that you can spend that time with Him. He needs to teach you what true love is. He needs to teach you what true compassion is. He needs to help you unlearn everything that you've experienced over the past few decades. And then He needs to reset your mind. He needs to recalibrate your mind so that when you do step into the promised land, you are prepared for it. That you're not going to mess it up. Now, there's so much more that I could talk about this topic. I think I might continue for the next couple of days. So for now, I'm going to leave it here, and I'll see you tomorrow.